Hi, folks, welcome. We'll just wait a few more moments. And we'll get going right on the hour. Welcome, everyone. While we're just waiting another minute to begin, if you would like, grab a piece of paper and a pen because we do have some activities to do in our time together today. Okay, so let's get going. My name is Dr. Michelle Irwin. I'm a writing specialist working in the Center for Teaching and Learning at the University of Toronto, Scarborough. I'm really delighted to be part of the PAUSE initiative, the Procrastination Awareness Week. And I have, just in the background, I have a couple of cats who have the zoomies, so please, please ignore them. And they seem to be setting my dogs off as well, so bad timing. But here we go. I understand that we have some folks that may be attending through live stream because of some Zoom issues, as I understand it. So our time might run a little light on the hour, since part of my presentation today was going to be some work together and some collaboration, which likely won't be possible in our format today. I would like to take a moment to do a land acknowledgement. I am in Toronto, so I will do that from where I sit, but I welcome you to think about the land that you are on Turtle Island. And I'll read our statement at the University of Toronto. We would like to acknowledge the leadership that has long preceded the University of Toronto. This land is the territory of the Huron-Wendat and the Petun First Nations, the Seneca, and most recently, the Mississaugas of the Credit River. Today, the meeting place of Toronto is still the home to many Indigenous people from across Turtle Island, and we are grateful to have this opportunity to work in the community and on this territory. So welcome for those of you who've just arrived in person or in person online and Zoom. So what we're going to do today is really think about moving from procrastination or inertia, beginning assignments, to productivity, but not just productivity, but feeling really good about productivity. So a lot of the strategies that we're going to be talking about today, and I'll be mentioning today, really are based in positive psychology, and they're effective. So introductions and icebreakers, if you're here, we look forward to hearing from you. I'd love to know what strategies you're currently using to be a more productive writer or breaking through that wall of inertia that sometimes affects students and anybody trying to get words on paper. We'll look at what procrastination is and again, some of the reasons that we do it. And then we've got some ideas for overcoming procrastination. Of course, SMART goals, we'll go through those. Take a moment for compassionate body scan, which really gives us a moment to think about our bodies and how they are doing, either supporting or need attention as part of perhaps why we are procrastinating and not able to get down to work as we'd like to. Chunking assignments is important. And then I want to show you our UTSC, or the University of Toronto Scarborough assignment calculator, something that we are very fond of and students often think is fantastic. So I want to show you the link to that, which is open to everybody. And then some recapping strategies and some final tips and thoughts. But I ask first to do an access check. Does everyone have what they need to participate? If there's some way that I can support your time here together, please do send me a chat. You can make that a private chat just to me if you'd like to do that. Is there anything else we can address now? If you'd like to select live captions at the bottom of the Zoom window, please do feel free to do that as well. That's open for you as well. So we always try to create an inclusive space by keeping microphone muted unless we're participating, building on ideas and comments made by peers. And I know that we're live streaming today, so it's not a full Zoom room as perhaps it might have been. Please do take care of yourself. Feel free to eat, drink, walk around, whatever you need to do during this time. I know that if you've been taking a number or going to a number of sessions through the pause program, you may have been a little glued to your computer. So do take a little time for yourself, stretch and watch on the phone if that works for you. And please remember ways to participate. Use the hand button or just unmute yourself and speak up and just say, hi, it's me, Michelle speaking, or type in the chat or just follow along. I have a question in the chat that says, what school am I hosting from? I'm from the University of Toronto, Scarborough. And if you missed my introduction, my name is Dr. Michelle Irwin, and I'm a writing specialist and faculty there. So we already do a lot of things at work, and I'd love to talk about that. So could you take a moment just to think about what strategies you already use to get down to your work? And if you're comfortable, please do share them in the chat. And I will show you my strategy too. Oh, really good idea. Here we have in the list, make a to-do list and focus on one item at a time. That's really, really good. And not to get overwhelmed by that to-do list. All right, I'm going to show you mine. This was actually in my Christmas stocking from my daughters because they do know how hard it is for me to break through inertia in order to start my writing. And so this is a clock they bought on Amazon, and it's fantastic because it's just analog. I don't have to look at my phone to check how I'm doing, and I'm having a really good day. I can set it for 25 minutes, and then I can actually watch it time down. And if it's not such a good day and it's just good to get something done, I might set it for 10 minutes and then watch that time go down. Now we're going to talk about Pomodoro method, which is also fantastic, something I've definitely used a lot myself. But I kind of like this because it keeps me away from my phone. So I appreciate that Christmas gift or that holiday gift my kids gave me. So again, anytime you want to weigh in, please do. But why do we procrastinate? What's behind procrastination? I talked a little bit about inertia. And of course, there are all sorts of ways that our Perhaps we are neurodivergent people, and there's an extra layer of issue that we might face there. But for everybody, procrastination isn't a sign of laziness, and we often think about procrastination as being indicative of laziness, and it simply isn't. More things are involved in why we procrastinate. So some of these might be fear and anxiety about the particular project, not knowing where to start, not feeling that we have the skills that we need in order to do the assignment. Perhaps it's a very big task and we don't know where to begin, or maybe the consequence of the task that we have to do, the essay or even the cover letter has a very big consequence. And so we're afraid of the consequence or the potential consequence. So fear and anxiety might be in there as well. Perfectionism, and that's like these words have to be right. They have to be good and strong and all aligned right from the get-go. And so there might be an element of perfectionism. If I can't do it perfectly, I can't start, kind of thing. Distractions, lots and lots of distractions in our world, of course, through social media, but also in our environment or even in the school environment. Um, Distractions also by things happening in our lives or things that are on our mind. Many, many different ways of being distracted that need to be controlled or that we might have difficulty controlling. Difficulties with mood regulation or self-regulation, that's very fair. Unsure, I talked before about high expectations of a task or effects of a task, but what about the unsure of the expectations of a task? Maybe you don't have enough information to really understand what's being asked of you. Low self-efficacy, and that's a belief. A low self-efficacy is the belief in our ability to complete a task. And I think it's Paharis, a researcher named Paharis, spent a lot of time, a lot of years researching self-efficacy and the relationship between self-efficacy, the belief in our writing, the belief that we are good writers, that we can do a writing task, accomplish a writing task, and there's a relationship with self-efficacy, confidence, and writing performance, and that one affects the other. So it's almost like a cyclical relationship. If we believe in ourselves as writers, then we have confidence to write, which means then we likely will have solid performance in that writing task. If, for instance, we don't have a lot of confidence in our self-efficacy, the belief is low, and that leads to lower performance in the task itself as well. So a real cycle there for good or for challenge as well. Sometimes we procrastinate because our perception is the task is uninteresting or unmeaningful or unpleasant. We're not that engaged or into the task that's set in front of us. Or abstract goals. Why am I doing this anyway? What does it matter anyway? So our goal beyond a particular paper might not be clear why we're doing a discipline or why we're doing a degree. And so having abstract goals can stand in the way of good productive work. And so one of the things we want to think about definitely is developing more specific goals and guidelines. Oh, I have another comment in here. I like to use a calendar to put in my deadlines and color code them. That's a great idea as well. So I talked about Paharis as a researcher doing work in self-efficacy, performance, and confidence. But Tice and Baumeister also do some really interesting work in procrastination. And they are suggesting that early in the semester, students who procrastinate report lower stress and less illness than non-procrastinators. So that is giving us some feedback, isn't it? So I feel, let's pretend it's me, I feel better earlier in the semester when I don't do my work, when I procrastinate. I feel less stress and less illness than folks that are already digging into the schoolwork. And so we want to continue that good feeling, that good positive feeling of lower stress and health. However, it turns around on us if we procrastinate and try to extend those good feelings. There's actually an adverse effect. Later in the semester, Tyson Baumeister suggests that procrastinators report more stress and more illness than non-procrastinators. So again, later it catches up. They report more stress and more illness than non-procrastinators. And then folks who procrastinated, unfortunately, overall were more sick than non-procrastinators, and they were more likely to receive lower grades on assignment than non-procrastinators. So again, although there were those initial benefits of procrastination earlier in the season, in the semester, it absolutely, according to these researchers, caught up later in the semester. So their conclusion in the end was, even though procrastinators experienced less stress initially, they were more stressed as deadlines neared and accumulated more stress overall. So again, we get some biofeedback says that's really good not to do our work, but in the end, it catches up. And so with that, let's turn our mind now towards how to overcome that procrastinating in order to build that feeling of wellness and reducing stress as much as possible. So one of the favorite things I like talking about, and the folks that I work with at UTSC also really, really support this idea for many, many different reasons. And that is free writing. And this is a writing strategy really brought to light by Peter Albo in the 1970s. And essentially, free writing is brainstorming without brainstorming, but in sentence and paragraph form, and it's writing without stopping. So free writing has a lot of positive psychology benefits. Also has a lot of academic benefits, just a lot of benefits, a lot of stress reduction benefits. But what it's really good for, and these are just some of the things that it's good for, is that it increases fluency. And there's research in for multilingual writers that says that by free writing, writers will learn to become more fluent writers, which means that they write more. It's not necessarily more accurate, but they write more. And it doesn't matter if it's not more accurate, because that's what revision's for, right? Revision is meant to go back into the work and to refine it, but just to get the words out on paper is excellent. So, and a significant goal. And so free writing increases fluency, not just for multilingual writers or folks learning another language, but for everyone, all writers. But the research is really focused on fluency for multilingual writers. It supports brainstorming. It's another way of doing it. And then it's got some psychological benefits of decluttering our mind, helping to vent. And there's also research that indicates that students who free write before exams about their feelings of anxiety before an exam tend to get higher grades than the students who don't free write before an exam. So it might be something, especially as we're heading towards April, if you're feeling anxious about an exam, before you go into the exam room, to free write for 5 or 10 minutes about exactly how you're feeling about the exam. Gets all of that out of a system so that you go into the exam setting feeling more confident and more clear-minded. Free writing helps to get stuck, and I'll show you how in a second. And one of my favorite uses is explores what you know about an idea. So I get a little bit blocked with a blank page. And so I like to start free writing and just say, okay, Michelle, just write what you know about this topic. You already know so much about it. And some of it, and so I do, I set my timer for 5 or 10 minutes and I just write, and I can often get a few hundred words out that I can then later go into and revise and eliminate and whoops, my timer just went off. And clean up. But what it does do is get something on paper and get that ball rolling. So I've told you a lot about the benefits, but how do you do it? And I've given you some clues and tricks for that. But it's essentially writing by keeping your hand moving. You literally don't stop. And if you can't think of the next thing to write, you say, or you write, I don't know what to write. I don't know what to write. And your mind will invariably kick in and say, this is what I want you to write about. And then you just keep going. Free writing is fantastic because it allows us to still that inner critic, that voice we might have that causes us to procrastinate, that it's not good enough, or that it's too high stakes, or that we haven't done enough research, or any of the things that we tell ourselves when we're writing. In free writing, we ignore grammar, spelling, and punctuation, and set a timer and write as many words as we can. So let's give it a go, and we'll write for 3 minutes. So a piece of paper, as I mentioned at the top of the hour, a piece of paper, and then please try this mode of writing. Students often like it. And I've got some prompts here, but you can really literally write about whatever you want to write about. So write the story of a time you felt really good about something that you accomplished by overcoming procrastination. What happened? How did you do it? What did you learn from this experience? And this is just a suggestion. I'm going to set my little analog timer here. If you want to write about that, please do. If you want to write just what's on your mind, that's an absolutely fair option as well. So again, I set my timer for 3 minutes. I ask you to free write. Happy writing. I'll check in a second. About 30 seconds or so to finish up what you're writing. Not a very pretty beat, but it does the job. So how did you feel about that? What are your impressions of free writing? You don't have to share what you wrote. Free writing is for the writer. It's not for the reader. It's for ourselves. And we call it a low stakes type of writing. And it's a really good method, again, for breaking through procrastination. If you have some thoughts or feelings about it, please do leave a message in the chat. And if you're watching through a live stream YouTube, I hope that you've got some feelings and thoughts about it. So let's dig into how we're going to overcome procrastination. I've already mentioned this really fantastic method of free writing, but some other ways are to set goals. And I know in our chat today we had a couple of students say they use calendars and make a to-do list, and that really is setting goals. I like to think of goals as intentions, because then when I don't make my intention, or I don't meet my goal, it's a bit of a softer landing, and I don't tend to feel quite as badly about not having accomplished what I wanted to. So I call them setting my intentions for the day, or setting my intentions for that particular hour. One of the students said, I can just write everything that crossed my mind. It felt really good, like freedom. Oh, I love that very much. Thank you for sharing that. It feels like freedom. And that is why I so much like telling students about free writing, is because it really feels like we can just write without, again, having all the requirements on us, and leave all of that work to the revision process. So we overcome procrastination by setting intentions or setting goals, but we also have to decide or think about what is going to be in our way from accomplishing that goal. Maybe we have competing demands. Maybe, as I said, it's our bodies. Maybe it's a lack of energy. Maybe it is distractions. So maybe it is the fact that we don't, remember we had all those lists before, maybe we don't know enough about a particular assignment or the expectations of what's being asked in order to start. So you set your goal, but then take a moment to reflect and think about what it is that might be standing in your way of accomplishing that when it comes to procrastination. And then you create a plan of action. So, for instance, if distraction is my problem, and or it's going to stop me from completing this particular task, then I need to put myself in a place, manage my space in a way that I'm going to eliminate distractions as much as possible. If it's me being unclear of what's expected, then I will want to clear those expectations. Maybe go and see someone, or talk to someone who might know, or make an appointment with a writing tutor, for instance, to help more fully understand what those expectations are. So we can set a goal, but then we have to figure out what it is that might be standing in our way, and then create a plan to overcome that barrier, or to overcome that hurdle. And then we implement the plan. As I said, get the help we need, learn a skill, organize working with a body double, whatever that plan is, put that plan in place, and then carry forward, and then reflect on the outcome. Zimmerman did a lot of research in self-regulation. Self-regulation means all of that work and thinking we do before the task to set ourselves up for success in a task. And then the next stage is doing the task. And then the final stage is reflecting on how we accomplished, didn't accomplish, succeeded, had some challenges, in order that the next time we sit down to do a task, or to accomplish something, that we're a little bit in better shape than we were the first time we tried to do it, if things didn't go so well. So again, it's not simply a matter of sitting down and saying, I'm going to do it, right? I'm going to do it this time. I'm going to sit down, I'm going to write that page, or I'm going to write that half page. We really need to step back and say, what is in my way right now? Is it my energy? Is it the time of day? Is it my understanding? Is it people around me? What is it that might be in my way? Managing that, and then getting down to work. Now, we've talked, I'm sure you know about SMART goals. I've actually just finished a course myself. It's a certificate program for work. And I was really surprised that in this kind of business management course, um, they went into detail about SMART goals. So SMART goals feels very educational, and it is, but I was really surprised that in this business course about strategic execution, actually was what the instructors were recommending SMART goals for initiatives. So yes, it's very teacherly and it's very education based, but it also extends to the workplace as well. I suppose anywhere we need to accomplish things. So if, in case anybody listening is not familiar, SMART goals are um, smart. It's essentially, and it looks like a lot of steps, but once you get used to saying, is this goal smart? And just kind of going through the measures, it can become quite automatic. But if there's something we need to accomplish, we do want to make sure that they are smart. So the S refers to specific, making it very clear to yourself what you're trying to achieve. Again, understanding expectations. And then um, choosing something of an appropriate size for the time, the energy, the space, etc. that you have. So make it a very specific goal. So I will use myself an example. I have to finish a letter today, and I have kind of pieced together elements of it. And I really need about an hour to kind of tie it up all together. So I have this very specific goal to finish drafting this letter. Measurable, make sure you can use numbers or milestones to decide if your goal has achieved. So for me, it literally is 500 words. Have I accomplished this 500 words? And so it's measurable. Achievable, do I have the skills or the support that I need? Realistic, be aware of how fast you work and how much effort is needed to achieve. So I might be pushing it a little bit with thinking I can do it in an hour. I think it might be realistic, but I'll have to think about if I've been able to accomplish it in that time to set myself up for success the next time I need to write a letter. So that's, for me, that's something I always struggle with, is the reality of time. And then time bound. Give yourself a set amount of time to do it. You have to make sure you have enough time to do it. So I talked about after our workshop today, my activity will be 1 hour to complete a letter that I'm writing for someone. And I'm going to ask you to set a SMART goal for the day. In your afternoon, depending on what time, where you are in the country, but for your day, do you have a SMART goal? And would you be willing to share it? Perhaps maybe break it down into specific, measurable, achievable, or just mention the goal, and perhaps we can do the breaking it down together. Does anybody have something that they've got to get done today? Okay, well, we'll think about that. Take a few minutes and just think about your goal for the day and see if you can break it down into specific and measurable, achievable, realistic, and time bound, or timely as another way of thinking of the timeliness of it. And if you're not sure how to apply it, then send me a message and I'll be happy to go through it with you. Just take a moment now and let's think about our body, because we expect a lot of support from our body in order to accomplish what we need to accomplish with our minds and our hearts. And so this is just a reminder to be mindful as much as possible of our bodies. And one of the ways we can do that is through body scanning. And I see there's a SMART goal. I'll come back to the SMART goal in a moment. So a compassionate body scan is taking a moment to focus on our body and our sensations in order to check in with ourselves. And so sometimes when we are feeling inert or feeling inertia that we can't get something going, that or we can't get down to work, it might be the body signaling to you that it needs something. It might need rest, it might need hydration, or it might need some protein or some food, might need some fresh air or some movement or relaxing or deep breaths. So every once in a while, try to do a compassionate body scan. Start with the top of your head. You start with your head and kind of move down through your body to your knees, to your feet, and just see where there's some pain or there's some tension or there's a sensation of some kind that needs some attention. Why do we do it? It can help us feel more grounded and present, but it also then allows us to take care of our body's needs, since again, our bodies are supporting this great initiative of our educations. So what are some alternatives of a compassionate body scan? Try actively focusing on one or more positive or neutral sensations. So for instance, you can taste your coffee, or you can look out the window, or you can listen to the sounds in the room. All of this is to suggest taking a moment away from the work to feel, to think, to be. And that is good for our bodies and our souls, but also gives our minds a break as well. So that when our next Pomodoro or timer or goal setting session shows up again, we feel a little bit more prepared to do that. So we have a SMART goal in the chat. So my current SMART goal is studying for a future midterm. So I gave myself a task to study for that midterm an hour a day per day during this week, where each day I study a different chapter. Oh, that's great. So that's very specific. So very specific because you're looking at a chapter, right? It's measurable, again, the chapter, achievable, only you can tell, depending on, how long the chapters are and how much energy you have and that sort of thing. Relevant, yes, absolutely relevant if you have an upcoming midterm, and time bound or timely. It's 1 hour per day in preparation for the midterm. So that really does sound absolutely like you have created a SMART goal for this midterm studying. Thank you very much for sharing that. So I wonder if you're familiar with chunking assignments or chunking time. And I just want to show you again my own book here. I use digital planning for some parts of my life, and I use a paper planner for other parts of my life, for my dailiness. And I won't show you the details of it, but I'm trying to show you a good page here, something called time chunking. And this is a little messy because it's the way my brain works, but I wonder if you can see that I have quite a messy calendar, but it works for me. And what I do is chunk my time. So little pockets of time for specific tasks. That's called chunking. And what that does is break up larger tasks into smaller subtasks. So exactly what this midterm studying example is doing, it's chunking, breaking up the large task of studying for a midterm into small, achievable, measurable tasks. So in terms of chunking for an essay, because we're talking about writing in our week, you might say, okay, my first chunk, my first activity is understanding the assignment guide. What's expected of me? And then thinking about, okay, what skills do I have? Are there any skills so if it's an annotated bibliography and you've never written an annotated bibliography, you might need to make an appointment with a writing tutor, or you might need to look at some resources about how to write them, or ask your teacher for a previous example, that sort of thing. So that's part of chunking, like all the steps that are required for developing your like completing a task. It helps by focusing on small steps. So, for instance, it's success if you just free write about a topic for 5 minutes. You have started what my mom would call breaking the back of something. It helps chipping away, right? Step by step by step, gets tasks done. It helps create realistic plans and can lower barriers to getting started, right? So find, if you're in trouble starting something, find the lowest barrier to entry, or reduce the barrier to entry by finding the smallest chunk of a task towards your activity, or towards your task. So I wonder if at your schools you have been able to access something like this. And I'm going to put in the chat. Oh, I tried to put in the chat. I put something else in the chat. Um, sorry, folks, I had this in my, just going to stop sharing for a moment because I want to share this UTSC assignment planner with you. And I will also put this in the chat. So that you can play around with it. And we should have the assignment planner up on the screen. And I am just going to also put this link now into the chat. Yes, there we go. So this is fantastic. Very, very useful and a lot of fun. So let's pretend we have an analytic essay due in a week today. Oh, I'm going to start the assignment today, and it is going to be due in, let's say, a week. And I've already got it uploaded there. It's an analytic essay. So then I've got a busy screen here. Then what we do is calculate our schedule. And it's fantastic now. So it tells us day by day what we would need to do in order to get our assignment done without stress and in a measured fashion across the week that we have. So it's suggesting that today we read the assignment instructions carefully and have any questions around what an analytic essay is. And here we can add it to our calendar as well, our Google or our Outlook calendar. And the next day it's suggesting that we read critically, and has some suggestions for that. But all of these different things are highlighted. So for instance, they're suggesting on Friday, we think about our pre-writing strategy, all of our planning for the assignment. And then we can click into that if we're not sure what that means. And we have collected resources from different universities across Canada about all of these different writing topics. So that's a very, very cool and handy little tool that I hope you can access. So I put the link uh, in the chat there for you to be able to access. And I'm going to share my screen again. And I invite you to give that a look and give that a try. And then if you like it, then use it and allow it to populate your calendar. So it takes all of that work out of it for you about what to do on what days. It's got your time management taken care of for you. Some more tips on managing procrastination. Have you ever heard of Eat the Frog? Eat the Frog, I believe it was from Mark Twain, and he's suggesting just do the toughest thing first. First thing, first chance you get in the day, do the thing that you really don't want to do, because then everything the rest of the day gets easier. And so I think the 5 a.m. club, if you've heard of it, suggests that you exercise and make your bed and do all that stuff you don't want to do first thing in the morning, because then everything, once you've got your exercise out of the way, first thing in the day, everything gets a little bit easier as it goes. So do the hardest task first and give yourself that great feeling, because everything after that will feel like a piece of cake. And please remember, it's fine to start in the middle, right? We always think we have to start, or maybe you don't, but I always think I have to start right at the beginning. So in this cover letter that I was, sorry, in this reference letter, I was really thinking I had to have this big, strong beginning, when it was much easier for me to be building out from the body paragraphs in the middle, so that I really then understood what my introduction, my conclusion would look like. So start from the middle. The middle is an easier, safer place to begin. Get more organized and build productive habits. There's so much stuff on social media and the internet and in blogs and apps around productive strategies and habit building. So don't get overwhelmed, but do try to figure out what works for you. Express your needs and feelings. That's really important. Seek support for your learning. And that, of course, is in your institution through writing support or academic advising or accessibility, wherever you need the support, but from the people in your lives as well. Roommates or family members, depending on where you live, just say, I'm having a really hard time with this essay, so that you hopefully will get some compassion and some empathy from the folks around you. Increase your motivation. And we often are waiting for external factors to be motivating us, like marks or GPAs, or trying to get into graduate school. But what about our internal motivation? Like, we just want to do well for ourselves, or we want to learn the maximum we can about a topic because we're interested in it. So what is your internal or your intrinsic motivation? It's really, really tricky for students to find that intrinsic motivation sometimes, but that's maybe a good thing to write about or to reflect about um, why it's important to you, or why it might be important to you to just get the work done, to begin and to break through those barriers. And don't be hard on yourself. We need and deserve a lot of compassion. I was telling you for a moment about compassionate body scan, but we really need just a compassionate approach to ourselves as well. So if you get to the end of a day, and I know I have 3 daughters who have gotten through um, undergraduates, and they say, oh, I'm going to start that essay today. Okay, I'm going to start that essay tomorrow. Okay, I'm going to start that essay Sunday. And then it doesn't happen. But be compassionate. The time has passed. All you can do is look forward to the future, be compassionate, just say, I needed that rest, or I needed to think about it for a while. You know your process. Just be good to yourself, be compassionate to yourself or with yourself. It's not laziness. Remember that procrastination is not due to laziness. There's something else going on. And in that time that you aren't getting your work done, reflect, think, is it my body? Is it my soul? Is it my mind? Is it my emotions? What is stopping me? And how can I overcome that block? And seek professional help. There's lots of coaching available. There's coaching available on campus, tutoring on campus, help from peers. Get the help that you need, professional help, when our well-being, our emotional, psychological, spiritual, physical well-being gets in the way of our work. Get the help that you need, the support that you need. There's also something called body doubling that's all the rage. And that is just working with someone. And that person doesn't even necessarily need to be working on the same assignment or the same studying as you. It could just be somebody who is, reading a book. But that's called body doubling, and there's increasing research about that, how that helps. And there's dopamine and serotonin and other things that are affected, and I don't have the neuroscience information, but I should get it. All sorts of things happening when we're with someone else and they're supporting our work through body doubling. And you can look up body doubling. It's got some pretty cool research that's starting to happen. Now, I've told you about Pomodoro, and of course, in the study halls in the pause program, there's a lot of Pomodoroing happening. And of course, I have my analog thingy thing, but here are some really good ones. I guess my favorite is Forest because it kind of plants trees and it's kind of gamified. Others that the accessibility folks at University of Toronto Scarborough have told us about are Foca and Clockwork Tomato, and Clockwork Tomatoes for Android. Pomo To Do is one, Focus Keeper and Focus List, but that's only for iPhones or iOS. So lots of those available as well. So as we wrap up, I just would like to recap the strategies that we talked about today, and that was SMART goals, right? Specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and timely or time-bound. Chunking assignments, and that's just breaking it down into its sizable, manageable pieces. Go as micro and granular as you need to. 5 minutes is a good start. Like really, if 5 minutes is what you've got, give it 5 minutes and at least you've started it. And the book is open, so to speak, for you to go back into it. You're welcome to use the UTSC assignment planner that I have put in the chat. And don't forget the body, the mind, the soul, the spirit, all of you, the whole holistic person who's writing and thinking and creative needs attention as well. And of course, Pomodoro and free writing, which we attended to before. So that, folks, is my presentation for you today. Thank you so much for joining me both on YouTube and in the Zoom room. And I wish you happy writing and a wonderful rest of the pause week. Take care, everyone.